Chapter 8: Real Assets, Housing, Land, Energy, and Practical Self-Reliance. Chapter 7 argued for building leverage, a lean business, portable revenue, and systems that don't collapse when hiring freezes. This chapter is about what happens when revenue is delayed, disrupted, or uneven, and your life still has to function. In the 2026-2030 window, real assets can either be a stabilizer or a trap. A stabilizer is something that reduces your monthly fragility, lowers the chance of catastrophic surprise, and increases your freedom of action. A trap is something that feels secure but quietly converts your flexibility into obligations, debt service, maintenance burden, illiquidity, and geographic lock-in. For a U.S. household with $500K capital, the goal is not to cosplay self-sufficiency or buy a rural fantasy. The goal is a practical portfolio of control, housing that doesn't explode your burn rate, utilities that fail gracefully, and basic capabilities that prevent expensive emergencies. 1. Real assets as risk management, not identity. Real assets are usually discussed like investments: price appreciation, inflation hedges, hard money. In this book, real assets are primarily discussed as resilience tools. A resilience tool has 3 properties. It reduces required monthly cash flow. Lower fixed costs means less panic and fewer forced decisions. It increases recovery speed. When something breaks, power, internet, health access, car, you can restore function quickly. It preserves optionality. You can still relocate, downshift, or retool without being trapped by the asset. With $500K, you can afford to make big moves. The danger is that big moves are easy to make for the wrong reason. Anxiety relief. In uncertain times, people reach for solid things: land, a house, solar panels, a generator, as emotional insurance. Sometimes that's wise. Sometimes it's a heavy anchor. The right question is not, should I buy real assets? It's, what failure modes am I buying protection against? Common failure modes in 2026-2030 for 500K households include income volatility, months of low or zero earnings; rent or housing instability, forced moves, unstable landlords, rapid increases; outages, power and internet disruption; healthcare access gaps, coverage changes, travel, cross-border transitions; inflation in essentials, utilities, insurance, repairs; local disruptions, storms, heat waves, wildfire smoke, supply interruptions; and the slow grind of maintenance and admin when you're already under stress. This chapter gives you a way to choose assets and upgrades that address those failure modes without destroying flexibility. 2. Housing posture. Rent, buy, or relocate first. Housing is the largest real asset decision most households make. The wrong housing posture can turn a manageable income gap into a crisis. A useful framing is 2-year control. What housing choice gives you the highest probability of stability over the next 24 months without forcing irreversible decisions? Rent by design, stability plus flexibility. Renting can be a strong resilience strategy if it's done deliberately. You're buying mobility. You can leave. Capped downside, repairs and major failures are not your capital expense, and the ability to match housing to evolving work. Renting fails when the lease is fragile, the landlord is unstable, the unit is poorly maintained, or the location is incompatible with your income plan. How to make renting resilient. Favor boring buildings. Well-maintained, professionally managed, low-drama neighbors, stable utilities. Optimize for work continuity. Reliable ISP options, quiet space, adequate power, decent climate control. Avoid cheap but chaotic. Chaos is expensive. Maintain a move buffer, cash reserved for deposit plus first month plus moving costs, so you can exit a bad situation without financial injury. In the US, rent volatility is a real risk. In some geo-arbitrage destinations, long leases and stable rents are easier to find. Either way, the question is whether your rent is a predictable line item or a source of repeated shocks. Buy for control, affordability plus low maintenance. Buying can make sense when it reduces fixed costs and reduces volatility. The classic reason is mortgage stability, especially if you can keep housing costs below what renting would cost in the same area. But in this era, buying fails in predictable ways. Overbuying, payment depends on strong income that may not persist. Underestimating true cost, insurance, taxes, maintenance, HOA surprises. Buying complexity, old systems, special roofs, septic issues, foundation risk. And losing flexibility. You can't easily pivot, relocate, or downshift. A resilience-minded purchase has a specific profile. Monthly cost you can support on conservative income, low maintenance burden, simple systems, newer roof, HVAC, manageable yard, modest insurance exposure, and a plan for vacancy or resale if you must move. For 500K households, the temptation is to buy a forever home. The better lens is a control home, a place that reduces your fragility while you rebuild income. Relocate first, then decide, often best if geo-arbitrage is likely. If geo-arbitrage is on the table for the next 12 to 24 months, the default is, don't buy a new anchor in the US unless it clearly improves your stability and doesn't block the move. Households often buy when they're anxious, then discover that relocation would have solved the cost problem more cleanly. Or they relocate impulsively, then realize they needed a stable base to rebuild income first. A practical sequence is 1. Stabilize cash flow and burn rate. 2. Test the destination with a medium-term rental. 3. Then decide whether buying local or buying anywhere improves control. The anti-fragile home, what actually matters. Whether you rent or buy, your home can be designed to fail gracefully. That matters more than aesthetics. Think of your household like a small business. Your home is the facility. Your job is continuity of operations. Power resilience. Graceful failure, not apocalypse. You don't need a bunker. You need time. Time to finish work, preserve food, stay cool or warm, and avoid damage. High-impact, low-cost upgrades. UPS battery backup for modem router and primary workstation. This is one of the best ROI resilience purchases you can make. It converts short outages and flickers into non-events. Surge protection and basic electrical sanity. Stable power strips, labeling, avoiding overloaded circuits. Portable battery for laptops, phones, and a simple charging strategy. Bigger moves can make sense when aligned with your location. In outage-prone areas, consider a small generator only if you will maintain it and store fuel safely. Solar plus battery can be useful, but it's often oversold. It becomes a resilience asset when it's sized to critical loads, not when it's a vanity project that ties up capital and adds maintenance complexity. The key question: if power drops for 6 to 24 hours, can you keep working, communicating, and protecting the home? Internet resilience. Income continuity is infrastructure. If your income is remote, internet is not a convenience. It's a core utility. A resilient setup has a primary broadband line with proven uptime, a backup path, mobile hotspot, second provider, or co-working membership, and a tested plan. Don't wait to test it during a client call. Minimum viable redundancy. A dedicated hotspot device or phone plan you can rely on. And a written switch procedure, so anyone in the household can execute it under stress. If you're living abroad, internet redundancy can be even easier. Many cities have abundant fiber options and inexpensive mobile data. But you still must test. Water and leak resilience. Small leaks become big losses. Most expensive home disasters are boring. Water, mold, slow leaks, drainage. Your resilience moves here are not expensive. Know where the water shutoff is and how to use it. Maintain a habit of periodic checks, under sinks, behind toilets, around water heaters. If you own, replace cheap hoses, service water heater, and avoid deferred maintenance. A leak that becomes a multi-week repair can destroy your work routine and force relocation at the worst moment. Heat, cold, and air quality, the invisible productivity killers. Climate stress is not theoretical. Heat waves, wildfire smoke, and extreme weather reduce sleep, health, and work capacity. Practical steps. Ensure your home can maintain safe temperatures without heroic costs. Use simple air quality defenses, effective filters, sealed windows where needed, and a basic plan for smoke events. Prioritize sleep and thermal comfort as productive capacity, not luxury. 4. Land, when it helps and when it becomes a liability. Land is the most romanticized real asset. For many 500K households, it is also the fastest way to convert flexibility into a maintenance job. Land can be useful when it accomplishes something specific. Reduces housing costs materially. Enables a small, real side income. Not fantasies, real demand, real margins. Improves safety or health outcomes. Or serves as a base that supports remote work reliably. Land becomes a liability when you must commute long distances for essentials. You trade service access for the illusion of independence. You underestimate water, waste, and power realities. Or you end up maintaining a property that doesn't pay you back in lower burn rate or higher stability. A reality check. Many self-reliance projects are not financial investments. They are hobbies that may be psychologically valuable. There's nothing wrong with that, unless you mistake them for resilience and spend the runway. The rule of access. If you are considering land, in the US or abroad, measure access like a risk manager. How far to urgent care hospital? How reliable is internet? How far to basic supplies? How safe is the route in bad weather? How dependent are you on a single vehicle? If land reduces your costs but increases your logistical fragility, you may be trading one risk for another. The capability first approach. Before buying land, build capabilities that make land less risky. Basic maintenance competency, an emergency fund that assumes repairs, and a tested remote work infrastructure. If you don't have those, land will not make you resilient. It will make you busy. 5. Energy, buy reliability, not bragging rights. Energy resilience is a ladder. Most households jump to the top. Solar, whole house systems without climbing the first rungs. UPS, surge protection, thermal control, outage procedures. A sensible ladder looks like this. Rung 1, continuity essentials. UPS for networking and work devices. Surge protection. Battery packs for phones and lights. Flashlights and headlamps. Simple, dependable. This solves the most common disruptions. Rung 2, medium duration outages. A portable power station for modem laptop. Or a small generator if you'll actually maintain it. The goal here is not to run your whole life. It's to maintain work and basic home function. Rung 3, high exposure locations. If you live somewhere with frequent outages, high heat, or disaster exposure, larger investments may be rational if they are sized to critical loads and you can afford maintenance and replacement. The mistake is converting capital into complex gear before you've stabilized your income plan. Gear is not income. Gear is a cost center that may or may not reduce risk enough to justify itself. 6. Vehicles and mobility, the overlooked real asset. In much of the US, your car is your access to work, healthcare, and safe housing options. In many geo-arbitrage cities, you can lower costs by not owning one. Either way, mobility is part of resilience. In car-dependent areas, a resilient vehicle strategy is not buy a truck for the apocalypse. It is a reliable, maintainable vehicle, preventive maintenance on schedule, and a plan for failure, rental, rideshare, neighbor, second vehicle, only if truly required. A car breakdown in an income-unstable period is one of the most common household destabilizers because it causes secondary damage, missed work, missed appointments, rushed repairs. In walkable or transit-rich areas, often abroad. Mobility resilience may mean living near essentials, keeping your documents and banking accessible, and maintaining the ability to move quickly if circumstances change. The asset is not a vehicle. The asset is the ability to relocate without chaos. 7. Self-reliance that works, skills, spares, and documentation. Practical self-reliance is not about withdrawing from society. It's about reducing the number of times you must solve problems by paying maximum price under maximum stress. Think in 3 categories: skills, spares, and documentation. Skills, 2 small competencies per quarter. Pick skills that reduce common failure costs. Shut off water, reset breakers, basic leak triage, patch small holes, fix a running toilet, replace simple hardware, basic computer network troubleshooting, and personal admin, scanning, backups, account security. 2 small competencies per quarter compounds fast. In a year, you've removed half a dozen common panic calls to contractors or IT support. Spares, minimal high use, not clutter. A minimal toolkit beats a garage full of junk. Build it to match your living situation. Examples of small but powerful spares. Basic hand tools and fasteners, spare charger cables and a travel power strip. A few key consumables, batteries, filters as needed, and a small first aid baseline. The rule: if you can't store it neatly and find it quickly, it will fail when you need it. Documentation, the modern resilience folder. In 2026-2030, a large portion of disruption is administrative. Banking access, identity verification, insurance claims, travel interruptions, medical records. Create a household documentation system. Passports, birth certificates, marriage divorce documents where relevant, insurance policies and contacts, key contracts, lease, mortgage, business entities, medical info and prescriptions, and an encrypted backup with secure sharing for trusted family. The goal is speed. When a problem hits, you don't want a scavenger hunt. A 4-week implementation plan. Action without overcommitting. This plan is designed for action without overcommitting. Week 1. Map your failure points. Write down what would destabilize your household. Rent increase or forced move, loss of internet, loss of power, medical disruption, vehicle failure, if you depend on one, loss of a key client or contract. Then list your backups. Most people discover they have fewer true backups than they assumed. Your output for week 1 is a 1-page continuity map that shows where you're fragile and what you can fix quickly. Week 2. Fix cheap, high-impact reliability issues. UPS for modem router plus your workstation. A backup internet option, even imperfect, and a tested hotspot plan. Basic water leak awareness, shut-off knowledge, simple detection habits. Remote work stability upgrades. Lighting, chair desk ergonomics, noise control. This category is unglamorous and extremely effective. It turns daily life from one surprise away from panic into something more stable. Week 3. Decide your housing posture for the next 24 months. Pick one. Rent by design, stability plus flexibility. Buy for control, affordability plus low maintenance. Relocate first, then decide, often best if geo arbitrage is likely. Write a short justification and a trigger list. Examples of triggers. If income drops below X for Y months, we downshift housing. If we get one more rent shock, we relocate. If we sign 2 long-term clients, we consider buying. If you can't decide, default to flexibility until income stabilizes. The labor shock punishes premature commitments. Week 4. Build capability, not clutter. Assemble a minimal toolkit suited to your home type. Learn 2 maintenance tasks you've been avoiding. Create a household documentation folder. Passports, insurance, key contracts, medical info, property documents, scans, and encrypted backups. This is modern self-reliance, reducing the time it takes to recover from disruption. The point of real assets, freedom of action. The 2026-2030 period will reward households that can move when they need to, stay when they should, and avoid panic when plans change. Real assets, used correctly, increase freedom of action. Used incorrectly, they do the opposite. They make you heavy, illiquid, and obligated, exactly when the labor market is asking you to be adaptive. The target is a life system where your housing is stable and affordable under stress. Your utilities fail gracefully. Your basic capabilities reduce reliance on expensive emergencies. And your capital remains flexible enough to support relocation, retraining, or a lean business. The next chapter moves from physical resilience to personal risk management, legal exposure, health planning, security, and family contingencies. The boring preparations that prevent a single event from turning into a multi-year setback. Real assets are one layer. Risk management is the operating system that tells you how to use every layer without creating new vulnerabilities.